All right, let's get into bag H for this MT48 2.0. Build this front end up. Looks like we got a skid plate. Looks like we got a bumper, nice and squishy. Top plate for the steering. It's like a chassis brace, and I'm not entirely sure what this is. I guess we're gonna find out together. Maybe that's part of the bumper. Let's see. Looks like there's the pins for the steering and all the screws. And all the big screws for the chassis plate. Let's go. So we're going to take our chassis plate. It looks like we're going to put the front end on there ish. We'll put the two smaller screws through the plate and into the gearbox. And I guess we're going to come back and do the other ones later. I'll just put those on loose for now. Again, it looks like they've broken these screws into, ones that are going to come through the plate and ones that are used for connecting things. The countersunk ones pretty well are all going to come through the plate and go into these countersunk holes on the plate. I mentioned before that this chassis plate is beefy. I mean, 5 mil thick. Yeah, right on, 5 mil. Beefy. All right. From here, it looks like we're also going to put the brace on, and then the axles or what have you for the bell crank. So let's get that ready. For those, we're going to use 1343, the M4x12. And these will get Loctite. You can put them on the threads. There we go. And then these are actually keyed into the chassis. So there's a flat on either side of this that goes into the slot on the chassis plate. Kind of like that. And that keeps that from spinning once you get the screw through it. It's a 2.0, we need a 2.5. I'm not sure that's the right length of screw. Yeah. And you can crank that down pretty good since it's metal on metal. Same thing here. Go through the chassis plate there and onto that. Oops. Let's do it that way. Yeah, that way. Not that way. we'll put our chassis brace. These are going into plastic, so just 2 fingers tight. Get that to bite the plastic. There we go. Yeah, just 2 fingers tight on these. And now, what? We come in with the steering assembly. Make sure not to let the bearings fall out. Or that screw, huh? That screw just slid right out. I thought that would stay in. Stay. And then the crank goes the other way. Look at that. Straight on. All right. Next, steering top plate. How does that go on there? Oh, okay. That kind of snaps in. You have to make sure that the posts come up into the bottom of the top plate. You want to make sure there's no bind here. When you tighten it down, there shouldn't be any bind. Let's see, these are different lengths. Which size do we need for the top plate? 1443 for the sides and 47 for the top. So the shorter ones on the sides, remember these should have Loctite in the threads already. We put that on. I do like to, again, run these in and back out a little bit just to make sure. Yeah, I don't see much Loctite there. Let me. Oops. Yeah, that should do that. Again, you don't want to bind here. You can make it as tight as you want, as long as there's not bind. Good. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. No, it's nice and free. Nice and free. Okay. And it looks like this plate that I didn't know quite what it was goes right behind the steering top plate like that. Like so. And then it gets 2 of these longer button head screws to hold it all together. Yeah. Oh no. It's interesting that the steering top plate is actually the same as we run on the trucks and the racers, the buggies and truggies. Bell crank's a little different, but the servo saver looks the same. And then it looks like we're supposed to run 2 screws through the front here. Looks like those come in the front there. Yeah. Right? Oh, no, no, no. They go in the front into the... Okay, into the... From the shock tower into the piece that sits on the top plate. Interesting. It's a little different. Typically, for the connection to the from the shock tower to the gearbox, we'd run a screw through here. I haven't seen us run that screw yet, and I don't know if we will. And maybe it's a part of the bumper assembly. So that gets us through step H3, right? Now, I'm going to connect the steering. Let's get a stand. That probably sits on top, right? Yeah. So, which screw do they have us run through the bottom? 1250. 1250 is a steering link screw. Now, what I want to know is that this one with the blank threads on it? It appears so. Yeah. So these screws have non-threaded sections on them. And it looks like they'll come up through here, right? And then your steering link sits there, and you get a shoulder or a flange nut on the top side. And it looks like, do these recess into the arms? They do. Okay. So you won't need a something to hold the bottom end of the screw, because it's held by the spindle carrier. All right, with those attached, looks like now is the time to get into the rest of the bumper build. We take this screw off and discard it. The screw that would held the front hinge pin brace on. And then we'll run these screws through this bumper brace, and they're going to go into our shock tower, kind of where I was expecting a screw to go at some point to connect the shock tower to the gearbox at the top. So yeah. My buddy likes to make fun of me for driving these in by hand. I don't know. I always like to. It's just a feel thing. Just prefer not to use electric tools on a build. I don't know why. I'll take the abuse on my wrists for the feel of it, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm a martyr. I can say later, I built this car and it beat up my wrists. I don't know. Something stupid. So again, these are into plastic, just 2 fingers tight. Next, this bumper looks like they go in kind of like this. Oh, I see. So it comes and mounts in front of the A block and then connects into, okay. And then all of our screws kind of go in here from here. The big ones into the gearbox, into the bumper, and that should be our front end built. These are going into plastic, just 2 fingers tight, and then holding the bumper on. Yeah. Oh, you know, I did not tighten down those 2mm screws underneath. Better do that before we tighten this down, huh? That would be foolish. I don't know if we can get at them without too much trouble here. Maybe. Yeah, why not? Yeah, make sure you tighten these down before you put that plate on. That's the moral of that story. Now, I guess at some point we'll have to drive screws into the front bumper, but I guess we do that whenever we kind of get to final assembly and choose a bumper. I don't know how that goes. I guess we're gonna see together. All right. So that's those 4 tight, and it looks like we're gonna have a button screw to run in the front. And then, why do I have an extra screw? See if we can sort that out. So did they give you an extra screw for some reason? Or did I miss something? If I missed something, what did I miss? I mean, this is a big button head screw. Ah, on the top steering plate, I did miss something. How about that? That chassis brace would not have been doing very much work without that screw. It would have just been flopping in the wind. Again, 2 fingers tight, just into plastic. All right. That finished bag H. So we have a front end and we have steering. We're on our way. Up next is bag I. Make sure to like and subscribe.